Welcome to another Bandology interview. Bandology is a Canadian nonprofit dedicated to more music for more kids via education, collaboration, and community.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of What's Your Forte? And today I'll be interviewing the lovely Julia Jung, or as I like to call her, Ms. Jung. How are you doing today?
I'm great. Thank you. How are you doing?
I'm good too. Awesome. So fun fact, Ms. Jung over here was actually my high school music teacher, and she is such an amazing musician, conductor, and educator. I am so excited to be interviewing her today and to show you how fantastic she is. So to get started, why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself and your current position?
So I'm a high school music teacher in the Dufferin-Peel Catholic Board, and I've been teaching at this school coming up on 14 years. So I'm very lucky to have been to be at such a great school. I did my education at the University of Toronto in the St. George campus down there, and then I did my master's of teaching also at U of T through OISE. And I was very lucky to have a really great music education in Toronto by going to a Toronto art school, and then again studying at U of T, and then doing my master's in the Masters of Teaching, which focuses a lot on the practical in-class experience.
So being a music teacher, you probably see so many kids with little music experience come into your class and pick up an instrument for the very first time. So I'm just really curious, when did you first pick up an instrument?
I first started learning, my first instrument is piano. And so I started learning piano much like many kids do, by your parents kind of signing you up, encouraging you. I think I started taking piano lessons probably around 10. And much like little kids then, you don't take to it always as well. You see it as a chore, but I'm glad that I stuck with it because that was my first introduction to it. And then when I was in elementary school, this was when the Toronto elementary school still had instrumental music. So when we were in grade 6, we could see the grade 7s and 8s playing instruments. And I remember seeing them and then being really interested in it and excited about it. And my older sister was just started at an art school and she was playing flute. So I wanted to try something as well. So that's where I first started to see instruments and get excited about them.
That's amazing. So what's your primary instrument?
So my main instrument is the baritone saxophone. Like I mentioned, I started on a piano, and then I got to go to Cardinal Carter Academy for the Arts, which is a wonderful art school in Toronto, which starts in grade 7. So when I got in, I auditioned on piano, and then they allow you to choose a band instrument. And I remember going in for like an open house day where we could watch some classes, and I saw this girl in front of me playing this really small saxophone, and I tapped her on the shoulder and I asked, what was it? And she said, oh, it's an alto sax. And I was like, a what? She's like, an alto sax. And I asked her to write it down for me because I had never seen one before. I'd only ever seen tenor saxes, but I didn't know that there were other types of saxes. And the elementary school music teacher had actually told me I would be too small to play any saxophone. And that was a huge impression on me. So I started, then I asked my music teacher in high school if I could learn the alto, and he said, of course. So I played alto for 2 years, and then my next teacher asked me if I'd like to try the baritone. And I immediately said yes, and I tried it. And the very first thing I did was walk down to play the low A, and I hit it right away. And I remember it blurred my vision because it shook me, and I was just hooked from then on. So I play all the woodwinds. So I'm a woodwind player, but my main instrument is baritone saxophone.
Yeah, that's great. So what kind of led you to a music career?
It's funny. I kind of did a roundabout way from it. My mom is a retired visual art teacher. And when I was in school, I told my mom infamously that the last thing I could ever be would be a teacher. It just didn't seem like that was going to be for me. I actually wanted to go into dentistry. And so I was in this art school and I loved being in music. I always loved it. But then I found that the sciences didn't come very naturally to me. I had to work really, really hard to just kind of be midstream, and that wouldn't be good enough for med school and that sort of thing. So I had to consider what my other options would be. So when I got into U of T, I actually auditioned for the Faculty of Music, and then I also applied for general arts. And a good friend of mine who was a year ahead of me, who I considered to be like a vastly superior musician, he wasn't going into performance. And I asked him, like, why aren't you? And he's like, oh, well, because I love doing music as a hobby and it's fun, but I don't want to make it, performing just my career. It wasn't for him. So that actually really stuck with me. So I declined performance at U of T and decided to do general arts, and took a lot of things and really started to enjoy it. But I needed to keep playing myself. So I joined the Hart House jazz band at U of T. And then I started realizing that I really loved starting students off new on music. Like, that's what I really liked, because I could get them hooked right from the beginning. They're all eager. They want to try something new. And I wanted to make sure they had a really good start to it, because I knew what it was like when, you start things and maybe didn't have the best introduction to it. So I wanted to make sure if they were going to get a taste for music, I could give them like the right experience with it, or a very positive one. So I found that I really enjoyed that. And so then I changed my program of study in university to get the music degree, and then eventually go on to get my teaching certificate, because I really loved doing that. I really loved starting off students in music, and ones who didn't have any experience at all.
Yeah, that's amazing. And just from my experience being your student, I remember so many people around me who really didn't have music experience at all, and they turned out great. They were amazing musicians at the end. Mm-hmm. So it really shows like how passionate you are about this.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. So like I previously mentioned, Miss Jung was my music teacher, and she was amazing. And I consider her to be one of my major influences when it comes to music. So I was wondering about your mentors and major influences growing up. Could you tell me a little bit about them?
Yes, I've had two, and they were both my high school music teachers. I think that your high school music teachers are so fundamental, and they really help shape you, because you're getting your personality and your individuality in high school. And so I had, in grade 7 and 8 in my high school, I had Michael Bellissimo, who was a trumpet and pianist from Humber College, and he had a jazz background. And so he was one who was like, yeah, you can play alto sax. And I just love this man. He was such a great introduction to instrumental music. I loved everything we did. He was just such a warm, happy person who like led by great example. And he was just such a wonderful, wonderful music teacher. And then he also led the jazz band and the jazz combo. And so eventually when I got into those, I was just enthralled with it. And he would write his own arrangements for the Christmas concerts. And I was just like, oh my goodness. And he taught us improvising, which still to this day I find very scary. But he was my first music teacher that really got me passionate for it. And then the next one who, because there were two instrumental band teachers in my high school, the next one was Mary Everett, who taught the senior grade. So she taught grade 9 to OAC. And everything I do as a teacher, I shaped after how she taught us in class. And I've told her so many times, I think I learned more from being in her classes in high school than I learned in my post-secondary education. And not to downplay my post-secondary education at all, I just think I had such an amazing mentor in high school. And so I run my jazz band the way Michael Bellissimo sort of influenced me, and I run my concert bands in my classes the way that Mary Everett influenced me. And I remember telling, I still have to call her Miss Everett, but I remember telling her that that there was a point when I was teaching at Gonzaga at my high school where I no longer had to stop and think, oh, what would Miss Everett do in this situation? Like I just had done enough that I knew what to do. And she said that was her proudest moment for me when I got to that point myself. So those two teachers have definitely been my greatest influences, and I hold them in the highest regard.
That's amazing. Like you could definitely see how like they shaped you, and it's just so cool to see like influences like being taken from both of those teachers and just how important they are in your life. Mm-hmm. So yeah, being in the music industry and community for a while, you probably did a lot of projects and performances, and you even had that ensemble in undergrad. And do you think there are any career highlights that you can think of from the top of your head?
There's so many. I'm so lucky to have had so many great career highlights. Like Oh my goodness. Yeah. Starting in my own program when I was an undergrad, I'm super proud of that. I think that really helped with my applications into other programs, because it definitely showed my incentive and my passion. Getting into the master's program, writing my thesis, which I highlight because my thesis was actually on how to find and create engaging strategies to keep junior intermediate students into the senior levels in high school when they weren't pursuing music as a career. So that's something I've tried to make part of my practice all the time. And what, oh my goodness, the first time doing well in a festival, when we would compete at things like the Ontario Band Association, anytime we would get special recognition for things like a Brass Excellence Award or Woodwind one, which took me a while to get, but I finally got that one, which was great. There were percussion ones, all sorts of things. When I finally broke the silver streak of Gonzaga's music competing at the Humber College Next Generation Festival. When I finally broke that silver streak and got our first gold, and then didn't come back down. That was a huge highlight. Taking our students to nationals and doing well, taking them on trips. We went to Europe. We've gone to the States for festivals and stuff. Like, all these are highlights. It's almost like I get a highlight almost every year because we have a wonderful goal. But probably, I guess the most recent one would be the one involving you during our COVID lockdown, because I mean, I can go over the story really quickly, but basically it was when we got that really great recognition because we were all thrust into lockdown and we were all online. And I was working on arrangements with the grade 11s and the grade 12s. And so we found out that our Kels were doing Flatten the Curve music classes online, and so they were doing their fundraising to try and help food banks. And so they were telling people do something creative and tag them, and then them and RBC would be raising money for food banks. And so I thought this was such a wonderful opportunity. So I like to do arranging with my students because it's a challenge to find current music to purchase to do with your students, because obviously by time something has been arranged and published and then comes out, it's been a year or so. And so, you can't get the most current thing. So that's why arranging is so great, because you can do something you want to do right now. So at that time when I did an arrangement of one of the Arkell songs, and then we learned it as a group, which was great, and then shared it with them and did the pay it forward contribution where I basically offered the arrangement for free to any other teacher who wanted it. And I've already sent out many, many copies. And then you were a huge help, Kirsten, with writing out the bass lines and everything, because I, doing everything by ear. And when we were teaching a line, it was just so much to do. And so you were a huge help with that. And then just that wonderful reach out to them, and then them getting back to us and them loving what we did, and then them introducing us to Nick Nurse and were basically gifting us with a wonderful bursary of new instruments and recognition for what we were doing. That has got to be a crazy highlight for my career. But I've had so many really good ones, so I'm really, really blessed.
Yeah, no, that definitely sounds like an amazing career. And I like how you treat all highlights of different values equally, because it just shows how important all these small milestones are for you. Mm-hmm. And that, you don't have to have something big to have a career highlight,
Definitely not. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, great. So we here at Bandology value the long-term value of music education. So as a music teacher, I'm sure you would agree. And I wanted to ask why music education is important to you.
So it's so important because one of the things that we like to stress, especially in our program, is making students well-rounded, because a lot of the things I hear from students in high school is well, why should I take music? I'm not going into music. I'm like, that's fine. My job isn't to create professional musicians. Because I tell everyone, I'm like, well, if all I did was create professional musicians, then our society is going to suffer, because we need everything. We need all of the different careers. That's what we need. But having musicians and having that music experience makes you a well-rounded person because of all of the sort of transferable skills that you learn from it. So that's what I really try to emphasize with students, is that you're going to learn things in music that you take into your other careers and that you need to have. And they help you in so many different ways. So thinking outside of a box, troubleshooting, working well in small groups and large groups, taking direction, but also being individual and responsible for yourself, work ethics, and then also being able to put yourself out there so that you can literally be heard and be seen, but then also knowing how to work with others and physically blending with others, and then listening to multiple ideas and multiple things happening at once. And you start to learn about the complexities of how even music is written versus how it sounds. And these just help create all these different neurological pathways that help you to be to be creative. And then this will help you in any career. There's no career that doesn't want you to be creative and think of solutions to problems, that will, want you to work well with people in different situations with, time restrictions, being free to do other things, that sort of stuff. We do a lot of community outreach as well. And that's vital for us as a society, but also for us as people, because we need to learn how to give back to our community, find out more about our communities. Our classrooms are extremely diverse. We have such a multiculturalism as well. And so you see all this, and we embrace all these different styles of music and people's backgrounds too. So it's a wonderful way. Music education just, again, makes people well-rounded and teaches you a lot of skills that you will take into other careers. And that's what we really need.
Yeah, definitely. We always talk about the transferable skills that music education will give you. And you definitely mentioned all of that. And it's really amazing points and all great reasons why music education is extremely important, even if you're not going into music. Mm-hmm. So being a music teacher, you must see like kids come into the music classroom, like you said, with so many different backgrounds, experiences, skills, and some of them end up pursuing music. And what advice do you have for them, the young musicians who are interested in a career in music?
Well, I definitely tell them to go for it. Don't be afraid. I know it can be extremely, it can be nerve-wracking. People might feel it's like incredibly competitive field. I feel like many fields of careers are competitive, but don't be afraid. You've got to try. You got to take risks, and you never know unless you try. But I also would encourage them to pursue music and find out all the different sort of options there are now, because I feel like there's even more options in music careers now than there were when I was in school. And they can create their own, obviously. Like that's what this generation's being told, that you're all going to be working in jobs that haven't been created yet. But you can find a way to use your passion and use your musical skills and your music education in multiple different ways, whether it be in performance, composition, in teaching, in production, those sorts of things, in leading nonprofit organizations that value music education. I mean, there's so many different things you could go and do. Event coordination, if you really like that. You can go into like festival sort of things. You can be part of a city planner. Like there's all sorts of really creative different things other than, the engineering side too, instrument production, sales, of course. Like there's lots of different things that you can do with these, with music education. And for those who want to pursue a career in music, it's just, you've got so many good options. So do it, tackle it, and then find out what else is out there, because you can probably find a niche job that takes all your passions and your skills and uses them. Yeah,
that's amazing. I remember being so scared about pursuing music, and it's just like very daunting. It's like, what is the job I'm going to do? Am I going to enjoy it? Just a lot of like worries like that. And yeah, you also don't know unless you try. So it's just a matter of taking those risks and, making sure that you know what you want, as well as you're ready to jump in and just go for it. Mm-hmm. So unfortunately, we're just about to reach the end of our interview. And at the end, we usually ask a series of fast fives. So these are rapid fire questions and answers. So
I'll try to be brief.
Okay. What is your favorite movie soundtrack?
Ooh, I'm going to have to go with, classic John Williams, Star Wars. Got to.
Yeah, that's my favorite too.
Okay.
Yeah. So I bet you play many instruments, but what is an instrument you wish you played?
Oh my goodness, I wish I played the double bass. I wish I played the double bass. It's so beautiful. And I wish I played it. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have a hidden talent?
Do I have a hidden talent? Not too hidden. I love to bake. I can draw. Hidden talent. Not so hidden. I'm a competitive archer. So I do archery. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, great. And then what is your favorite concert you've attended?
Oh my goodness. Favorite concert I've attended. I've been to so many. Let's see. I've seen so many good ones at the old Massey Hall. And I think the best concert I went to was when the Jazz at Lincoln Center came to Toronto. They've come many times, and I got to go as a volunteer with my old high school as a supervisor. And so we saw Wynton Marsalis with his band, and they killed it because they do. And then afterwards, the schools got to wait and talk to him, and he came out afterwards, and he's just signing tickets for everyone, and these kids probably don't realize the god among men he is, and he was just signing tickets and everything, and I got to go get a program signed from him, and he just seemed like he was the coolest uncle that you want. Like, he was so patient with everyone, and this is a legend in music, and that's probably one of my favorite concerts.
Yeah, that sounds so cool. Okay, last one. So what is the last show you binge watched or book you've read?
Okay, I'm currently reading Simu Liu's We Were Dreamers, which is fantastic. So I've already been crying, and it's like the third chapter. So I'm reading that, and that's wonderful. Binge watching, we are actually part 2 of Stranger Things season 4 has just come out today, so we're going to be slamming those back. And then we also were binging Only Murders in the Building, so that's now coming out weekly. But man, anything that's on Disney Plus, when it's Marvel or Star Wars related, we're on it. Watch them all.
Yeah, no, those are always great movies. Like, they never go wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Great. So just to wrap things up, do you have any exciting plans or new projects coming up?
Yes, I'm trying to think of things. It's funny because one of my other coworkers was telling me, like, you're on mat leave. Why are you even thinking about what you're going to do in September? But I can't not think about it. So again, like I mentioned before to you about, we've had a declining enrollment. COVID has really been hard on the arts programs and music specifically. So I've already been thinking about what I can do to sort of, bring in the students again and build our numbers and build our program back up. So I've had a couple of ideas. One thing I'd really like to do is I'd like to get in some professional musicians to do some live performances in our schools, so that students can see where they can go. Like, when you hear people and see people who are better than you, that's inspiring and nerve-wracking. So I want them to see that. So I'd love to get some pros to come in and put on a show for them, so we can really encourage them that way, because it's usually our own students who do that. Like, the grade 12s will inspire the younger students, but our own students, again, because of COVID, haven't had as much musical experience. So I'd like to bring in some other people to do that. And then the second idea I was toying with is I'd really like to put together kind of like a promo video for music education, where I'd like to interview people who are in a variety of different careers, so not music related. I've already lined up a few people to do it, but these people took music in high school. And so I want them to tell us what they learned from studying music that they've taken real life into their careers. And already I've lined up someone in aerospace. I've lined up someone who has their own business, an entrepreneur that way too. I've got someone in the medical field. So I'd really like to put together a great promo video talking to students about the importance of music education when you are going into vastly different fields. So that's what I'd really like. And I feel like that's something, if I can get that together, I will be able to use for years to come to sort of inspire the next generation.
Yeah, that's amazing. We definitely need that inspiration. We don't see as much of that because of COVID, as you said. And we weren't able to go and, show kids music, go to their schools and perform and show them how great it is. So that's amazing. Yeah, so that concludes my interview with music teacher Julia Jung. Thank you so much, Ms. Jung, for joining me in this episode of What's Your Forte. I had such an amazing time listening to what you had to say and all about your experiences. Also, thank you to all of you who are listening, and I hope you learned something about this exceptional teacher. Thanks for sticking around, and I'll see you on the next episode of What's Your Forte.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us. If you like what you heard, you can learn more about our organization at bandology.ca, which features information about music education, advocacy and research, and our Play a Gig and Bandcamp programs. Follow us on social media for more videos, performance, and interviews on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube.